All right, hello. Welcome to my latest podcast video. Unless you're watching this on YouTube, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the things, leave me a review. Super excited to be growing all these platforms, and it really helps when you guys all share and like and subscribe and do all of the things. So, but only if you want to, like only if you fuck with this shit. If you don't, obviously don't. But if you do, please do. And also, thank you so much to everybody who listens to this and watches these. I know I just have like a handful of people checking these out, but it really means the world to me. And I know that this will grow, and I know that it's already making a difference. I get feedback from some of you, and I continue to get feedback from some of you, and it literally like lights my soul on fire in the best way. So thank you. Feedback, comments, always welcome. And even better if you guys could like leave a review or subscribe or like or do all the things to boost the algorithm. So without further ado, this episode, short little intro for you. I was back, I was back in Illinois. So I moved out here to Palm Springs in May of 2024. This was my first time returning home. I was born and raised in a town called St. Charles, Illinois. And then I was there until about 2019 when I moved to Wisconsin with my ex-husband. But where I lived in Wisconsin was about an hour north of where I lived in Illinois. So it's all like the Midwest. My two homes there are in the same relative area. I went back because my grandparents are moving. They've been in the same house that they've lived in for the past 68 years, and they're moving to South Carolina. And so I went back to see them, see the house before they move, and I also stayed at my dad's house. My parents are divorced. My mom lives in Wisconsin. My dad lives nearby my hometown in Illinois. So I stayed with him for 4 nights. And it was the first time that I like stayed at my dad's house, just me and him. And it was a really dynamic and unique experience to go back home after being away for so long. And this episode is about the awarenesses that I received around deeper levels of how a lot of my childhood was kind of twisted and kind of fucked up, and there was like abuse involved, and this experience, this travel back home really started to illuminate more of that. So it talks about all of that. It's super good, super juicy. I hope you enjoy. It's like 15 minutes long, so it's not a super long one. But without further ado, I'm going to let you dive in. All right, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to my next video slash podcast slash fuck. All right, y'all, what the fuck is up? Welcome to my next video. So I am back in Illinois. I am visiting my grandparents, seeing some friends, seeing some family. My grandparents have lived in the same house since that they've lived in for like 70 years, basically, and they're moving to South Carolina. So I came back to see them, see the house one more time, and it is my first time back in the Midwest since moving out to California this past May. Right now it is October. So it's good to be back. It's really good to be back, but it's also has been a quite illuminating experience. I'm really into numerology, and this year I got really into numerology and using numbers as signs and messages for like themes that are playing out, or just general insights around, the collective energies, the personal energies, what the hell is going on, right? And numerology is really fun because there are the collective numbers, right, that the world is going through. So right now in October is a 9 number for the collective. But personally, I'm in an 8 month. It gets as specific as, the week that you're in has a number. Like right now, this is a collective number 4 week. I don't know what my personal number for the week is, but I also use numerology to read into like angel numbers, or people, what do they call them? Like angel numbers or spirit numbers, or when you see like 333 or 555 or 666, it's like, what do these numbers mean? And I took my perspective of, because the synchronicity of seeing 333 all the time or 555 all the time is a really fun way to recognize kind of being in the groove and being in the flow and being, in an alignment. But with diving into deeper levels of numerology, I can now take the numbers that I'm seeing repeatedly, and apply them and gain insight for them versus, deeper than just like, oh, I'm in alignment, right? And this whole trip, 777, popping up everywhere. 777, 777, 777, so many sevens. And 7 is the number of spiritual growth. 7 is the number of deeper insight, deeper wisdom. 7 is the number of learning more, enhancing your knowledge about yourself, diving into deeper spiritual practices, learning new spiritual modalities. And it's like I see it as like the growing pains of being on your spiritual journey, or being on the journey of self-reclamation, as I have recently been calling it. And I'm in a year 7 as well. So this year is 7 isn't an easy number. Like, it's a very productive number, and it's an energy that definitely promotes a lot of growth, but it's kind of like not the easy growth. It's like the growing pains kinds of growth. It's like the learning the hard spiritual lessons and really going through it. And this year has been all of those things. This has been one of the most transformative years of my life, and for many, many different reasons. And there are many arenas of my life that have really been challenging to move and grow through. And one of those arenas was my relationship with my mom. And back in July, we had a breakthrough in this relationship that has been really on the rocks for 8 years. And so, again, just talking about the numbers of 7, I'm in a year 7, lots of spiritual growth, lots of like emotional heavy lifting, lots of reclamation of self and deepening into who I am, and shattering illusions of who I'm not and beliefs that I had adopted from conditioning or personal experience or adolescence or all of those things. So it's a lot of like ego deaths. It's a lot of personal deaths to come out the other side and shed the skin of your old identity and, come into a new. And so, applying the 7s to this trip, I am home. I'm back home in Illinois, and I have been remembering things from my childhood that are not easy things to bring back to the surface. And there was a lot of abuse in my childhood. There was a lot of abuse. And, a lot of it I was aware of, and a lot of it, I'd moved through and worked through before, but there's been deeper levels of it that are showing up. And this trip, it started really good. I'm not saying any of this trip is bad, but it started off really wonderfully because I came back to town, and my best friend Nadia, who lives in Switzerland, who I haven't seen since I visited her last year in Switzerland, just happened to be home. And so we got together, we did our shit, we had our stupid fun, and we caught up, and it was like, hell yes, love this, so good. But I've been staying with my dad for the first time. Like, I've stayed with my dad before, but like with my ex-husband, and this is the first time I really like spent time alone, this much time alone with my dad, and stayed at his house. I'm here for like 4 nights. And I think that's playing into it. Like, I'm really like back in a childhood like environment, right? Like, my mom is in Green Bay. They got divorced in 2016, 2017. They've been separated for quite some time. But I am kind of back in this like at my parents' house, even though it's just my dad. I'm like back as a kid at my dad's house, and he loves me so much, and we're really like bonding in new ways and developing, deeper levels of communication, because things aren't always super smooth with us. Not that they're bad, we just don't have a language that is super smooth. So like, it's just a little choppy. But we love each other, we care about each other, and we want the best for each other. but it's still a work in progress, right? But nonetheless, being home in my dad's house and in my hometown and going about all the things, it's stirring up some old shit. And I am really committed to continuing to free my body of trapped stress cycles and trauma and emotions that my psyche buried down when it wasn't safe to fully feel them back in whenever the shit was originally activated. And a lot of that has to do with the energies of terror lately. Terror is what is coming up, and it's not easy shit to move through. I am, the two big things that came up were, there's a juvenile detention center in my hometown off of Route 38 in Campton Township. And it used to be a jail, and now I think it's a juvenile detention center. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a jail. I mean, it's a jail, and there's like a couple acres along 38 where it's 15-foot fences, chain link fences, double fences, barbed wire at the top, and it's very much, an intimidating, it's a jail, right? You don't get in, you don't get out. And as a kid, I had a lot of dysregulation as a kid. I had a lot of anger issues, and I threw quite a few temper tantrums. And when things didn't go my way as a kid, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, I would act out. And I would rebel violently, and I would terrorize the house, and I would throw shit off the shelves, and I would go into my brother's room and just break things, and I would fight with my brother and get aggressive with him and hit him. And I'm still trying to figure out what the hell started this. And I have some hints. I have some clues in my mind. But also I think I'm just an intense person. I think that I was born into this world with a lot of dynamic energy, really intense, expansive, dynamic energy. And I think that required a lot more proper nurturing and a different kind of parenting style than I received. So I think that kind of put some fuel in me, whatever, I think you get the point. But regardless, I used to act out a lot. And one thing that my parents would do they would threaten to take me to what was called back then the bad boy school, this juvenile detention center. They would threaten to take me there. And I'm 5, 6, 7 years old, and my parents are we're gonna take you to jail if you don't act up, if you don't stop being bad, you're gonna go to jail. We're just gonna abandon you. We're just gonna leave you in jail. And it was so bad to the point where I can remember where they would put me in the car and drive me there. And the whole time I'm kicking and screaming and wailing, and I'm in complete terror, saying no, begging my parents not to abandon me. And they would take me to the fucking parking lot of this place. It was a 10-minute drive from my house. And they would take me there, and that was the threat. That was how that was a threat. And that's just so fucked up. That's so fucked up. That's fucking emotional and psychological abuse. And the other thing that my mom, I can recall happening at least once, me chasing her down the driveway as she drove away with a suitcase of clothes packed up, saying that she was just gonna leave. I can remember being bad or acting out as a kid and reaching a point where the threat that my parents would give me, that my mom would give me, was she would start packing up clothes and start packing a suitcase and gathering her stuff, and I'm kicking and screaming and begging her not to go, and then she's getting in the car and she drives away, and I chase her down the I literally running after my mom as a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old down the street, trying to catch her car, begging her to stay. And that was like some of the foundational lessons that I learned about relationships. Like those were the relationship models relationship models I was presented with. And this isn't like oh, poor me, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's coming across like that at all. It's like this is the process. Like this is the deeper work. This is the diving deeper and deeper into like reclaiming who you are by shedding all of the fucked up ways you were taught to be. And so what do I do? Like, what do I do with this? Like, I've been crying quite a bit. I've been moving a lot of this energy out of the body, and I'm gonna continue setting the intention to clear everything that's there. So in terms of like energy work and like consistently setting intentions, like this is alive, this is active for me, and I'm going to use it as an opportunity to move deeper through it and not just kind of like wait for the next time these things to kind of surface, come up, or wait for the next time I come home. Like, it's like, no, this stuff is alive, it's active, I'm gaining an awareness of it. Like, let's shine the light here. Let's put the magnifying glass here and let's get intentional about moving through this fully. So I'm going to add it to my daily devotional that I'm going to keep clearing terror, and I'm going to keep clearing like any and all emotions and energies that got twisted, tangled, trapped up inside of me through these emotionally abusive experiences that I got from my mom and maybe my dad, like my parents. And it also is just kind of validating to see more of the fucked up shit that happened to me as a kid, to be like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There was shit wrong with your environment. It's not you, it's your environment. It was your environment. This is how you learn. This is how your nervous system and your emotional intelligence skills were taught and were modeled. And this is why like anxious attachment styles were like are continuing to be, like, I'm still working through this like insecure attachment styles. But this is like, oh, that's why. There's nothing wrong with me. I didn't do anything wrong. I actually was just a child and I was innocent and I was abused. All right, how are we following up on the last video? So today's Thursday. I recorded the last one on Sunday, so I'm back in Palm Springs. Sunday was when I was driving up to Wisconsin. I was back home, and now it's 4 days later. It's 4 days later into the week, and I want to give you a timeline of how things kind of progressed for me. So obviously all that stuff came to my attention, that came into my cognitive awareness. It kind of like was rebirthed in my psyche as, oh, that shit happened to me. And then, as I mentioned, I set the intention to move through it. I set the intention to clear any and all feelings that were wrapped up and tied up in this. And the thing about setting intentions and energy work is that it's kind of like a muscle you build. So at first, it takes repetition, it takes consistency, it takes a devotional practice. But I've reached a point now where I've kind of strengthened that muscle pretty strongly. And so when I make these intentions, like, the things happen, and it's like, oh fuck, okay, I'm actually gonna do this. I'm actually gonna move through it. So what did it look like? I got back from Illinois to California on Monday, and Monday and Tuesday I was feeling slow. I was feeling heavy. I was feeling weighed down. I was feeling like, you could call it anxiety, but if you watched like the grief video that I did, it's similar, just a different expression of there's something underneath the surface that's looking to come up. And in this case, it was rage, it was terror, and it was like confusion and abandonment. And so every time that kind of stuff bubbles up to the surface, anytime that those energies are looking to be expressed, they kind of all have their own unique flavor. The grief was more of like a heaviness, like a slowness, like that molasses that kind of coats us and slows everything down and makes depression-like symptoms. This energy was very much more along the lines of anxiety and doubt and a little bit of like, oh, there's something off. I can't quite put my finger on it, except for I'm setting the intentions. It was like, I think I know what this is. And what's required here is creating space for it. So you set the intention and then you create space for it. So while I could just like scroll on my phone and scroll through Instagram and like disperse my energy into things that don't serve me, I use music as a tool. I go and I lay down, I create space, and I've got a specific set of songs that I can use and tap into that really start moving emotions. And I did, and the floodgates fucking opened for me yesterday. So yesterday was Wednesday, and I went through it. The amount of rage that boiled up inside of me was tremendous. And rage and anger and despair, like rage and anger are something that have been more challenging for me to deal with. Because as a kid, I had a lot of anger, and the way I was punished for it taught me to shove it down. And because of that, like unlearning that took a lot of work. But I've reached a place now where I can rage, I can let it out. And there was so much of this, like, how fucking dare you energy? How fucking dare you do that to me? I was a child and you were my parents. Like, you guys were responsible for teaching me how to fucking do this shit, and you failed, and then I got punished for it, and then I was abused for it. So a bunch of this rage moved out of me, and there's so many different levels to this, because the other lens to look at this is our parents, whether we've got, two moms as parents, or like we've got grandpa and grandma as parents, or as kids, as we're developing, we need a healthy balance between the masculine and the feminine energies. So masculine and feminine energies, they present whether, no matter what your gender is, right? But we require the protection of the masculine energy, and we require the nourishment of kids screaming at the apartment next door. We require the protection of the masculine, of the father figure, and we require the nourishment and the love and the caring support of the mother figure. That's a really, really boiled down explanation of the masculine and feminine energies. But like, I just kind of wanted to touch on that. I'm sure I'll talk more about the inner workings of those dynamics at another time. But for this, like, it was like the how dare you to the mother, to the feminine energy, how dare you do this to me? And then to the masculine energy, to my dad, it was like, you were supposed to protect me and you didn't. Like, I didn't get the protection I required here. And so I moved through it, and it was ugly. It was ugly. I was kicking, I was screaming, I was crying, I was making noises that took me a long time to learn how to actually make and like accept myself for making. Oh, and it knocked me down. It was exhausting. I'm still kind of tired today. And there's probably still more there, but we did a big amount of heavy lifting yesterday of letting that shit go and creating the space for it. And we can only do so much at a time. I've got a life going, I'm moving into my apartment, I'm getting that set up. There's like groceries that need to be bought. There's things that need to be done. And so like, it's always a balance. But again, I really appreciate doing this. I like demonstrating it. This is shit that I was never shown how to do, and I want to be like a beacon and a light to start guiding people through more of the process. And I'm having a bit of like a meta moment. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, but as I've already recorded the intro and the outro to this video or to this podcast, and I then more came to the surface like since Sunday, and I moved through everything, and then it was like, oh, I've got more to say here, but I already filmed the intro and the outro, so it's just a bit of a mind trip to be filming the middle sequence to what will appear as a linear sequence to anybody watching or viewing this. But with that said, I'm going to stop here and let you guys watch or listen to the outro. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it so much. And reflecting back on all of this, so why am I sharing these processes? I'm sharing these processes to demonstrate what it looks like to go down what I call the self-reclamation journey. And to do the work of this journey is to continue diving deeper and deeper into the levels of ourselves that are buried underneath the conditioning and the trauma and the trapped emotions and the trapped stress cycles. So as we continue shining more light and moving more and more of this density out of our bodies and out of our systems, the result of that is naturally more internal safety. The result of that is the ability to house more joy, more play, more fun, more internal safety, and more power of choice. And the more of that, the better. I think that's like an undeniable desire that we all want more of that shit, right? And I continue to do this work. I've been doing this for like 5 years now, like intentionally doing this for 4 or 5 years now. And it always amazes me that there are deeper levels to go. It always amazes me. And it's something that I have kind of devoted myself to because I've seen the transformation it can provide. The person I was in 2020 versus the person I am now is radically different. The person I was 6 months ago versus the person I am now is radically different because of me continuing to do this work and continuing to dive deeper into creating more internal safety and more room for play and joy and happiness and intimacy. Life just keeps getting fucking better. I'm able to do the bigger and scarier things. I'm able to take bigger bites out of life and continue building something that really just continues to set my soul on fire. And who doesn't want more fucking that, right? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And I am now moving into a space where I'm really eager to help other people do this as well. There's always room for improvement, but I'm really fucking good at this shit. I understand the process and I understand the roadmap to it all. I'm really looking forward to working more with individuals one-on-one and in group settings. I have my very first group program coming out soon. It's still in the works. It's still in the womb. It's still growing. It's still kind of coming together and being birthed. But I expect in the next month or so, it's going to be live and open. So if you want to be one of the first people to know about that, like shoot me a DM, like send me a message, just let me know and I'll put you on like the first to know list because there's only going to be like 8 spots. Also, I am working with clients one-on-one in containers that we can kind of structure and decide what the best setting would be for your unique needs and kind of the intentions you have around where you're going and what change you want to make. So if any of that like sounds curious to you or sounds engaging, please don't be shy about reaching out. The next step is just a conversation, and it's a conversation. It's like, hey, is this a good fit? And it has to feel good to you. It has to feel good to me. And if it does, sweet, amazing, groovy, let's make some magic happen. And if it doesn't, who knows, I might have somebody else to kind of send your way. So that's the tea. Thanks for being here and stay tuned for more.